Okay, so now I want to start to implement our backend, but before we do that, I just want to quickly go over the whole process, the whole workflow of the front end and the back end, just in case some of you guys don't really understand that. So we have our front end, which we're viewing in the browser. We've been working on, that's our React application. Okay, that's the front end. Right now, the products that we're loading are just stored in a JSON file on our front end. Now, to create a full stack application, we need to have a backend. So our backend is going to be created with Node.js, which is the JavaScript runtime, allows us to run JavaScript on the server, and then Express, which is a backend framework, and it allows us to create routes and stuff like that. Now, the backend is where we communicate with our database, which in this case will be MongoDB. And to communicate with our database, we're going to use what's called an object data mapper, which we're going to use Mongoose. Okay, so Mongoose has methods like find and find by ID and just different methods that make it easy to interact with our MongoDB database. And in our backend, we'll be creating controllers, models, and so on. Now, to get data from the backend, we need to make what's called an HTTP request. And there's different types, so there's different methods of HTTP requests. The main four are get, post, put, and delete, and I'll go over these in a second. But if we want to fetch the products from our backend, we would make a request from our front end, from React, a get request to something like /API/products, which is a route that we would create with Express. And when we hit that route, we would send back the product's JSON data. Okay, so our backend isn't going to serve like HTML templates or anything like that. It's only going to serve JSON for our front end to pick up and read and then do what we want with. In our case, we're going to display our products page, our single product details page, and stuff like that. Now, ultimately, these products and anything else that we have in our app is going to be stored in our MongoDB database. But for now, we're just going to move that products JSON folder from the front end to the back end just so we can start to work with a server. Now, depending on what we want to do, if we want to get something or if we want to save data to our server, if we want to update, delete, there's different methods, HTTP methods that we want to use. So get is used for fetching data, getting data. Post is used for adding data. So if you want to create a product, could be to the same endpoint as you can see here, but they're different methods, so it doesn't matter. Now, if you want to update something, typically you would use a put request, and in this case you would add the ID because you need to know which product that you're updating. Okay, same with delete. If you make a delete request, you want to also have an ID here. So this just keeps everything RESTful. And if you've ever heard of a REST API, REST stands for Representational State Transfer, and it's a software architectural style that defines a set of constraints to be used for web APIs and web services. So it just keeps everything clean, and you don't want to have something like API/get products or update products. You just want to change the HTTP method itself, okay? Unless you have other types of actions like authentication and stuff like that. But if it's just fetching and adding, updating, deleting, you want to typically stick to a REST style. Okay, so I hope that clears some things up for anybody that was confused about this. So up to this point, we've been just working in our front end. In the next video, we're going to start to set up just a very, very basic Express server so that we can actually fetch our products from there rather than just loading a JSON file or a JavaScript file in the front end.